5 Star Trek. Voyager Season 4 episodes I always skip on a rewatch. Star Trek. Voyager has always been a unique entry in the Star Trek universe. It dared to take fans into uncharted space, isolated from the familiar camaraderie of Starfleet's wider universe. By Season 4, the show had found its stride, balancing character-driven stories with complex sci-fi dilemmas. Yet, even in its stronger seasons, there are episodes that make me pause, sigh, and fast forward. Here are 5 episodes from Voyager's 4th season that I always skip on a rewatch, and why. 1. The Gift S4E2. I know what you're thinking, but The Gift is pivotal. It's the start of 7 of 9's journey. And yes, it is crucial to the overall arc, but as a standalone episode, it drags. The pacing feels uneven, and the emotional beats are hit over and over without much subtlety. The episode's main thrust, 7's transition from Borg to human, is powerful in theory, but the execution leans heavily on exposition. Rewatching it, I can't help but skim through the drawn-out scenes of 7 struggling with basic human functions while everyone else narrates her struggle aloud. It's essential to the story, but it's not a joy to relive. 2. Message in a Bottle S4E14. This one had potential. The idea of the Doctor interacting with a Starfleet crew across vast distances using a digital interface is exciting, but the episode leans too heavily on technobabble and plot convenience. The story introduces the Romulan ship and gives the Doctor a chance to shine, yet the tension never lands. The episode's climax feels underwhelming, and the Romulan characters are thinly written, bordering on caricatures. On a rewatch, the novelty of the Doctor on the Prometheus fades, leaving behind a procedural-heavy episode that struggles to hold interest. 3. Renaissance Man S4E21. Here's an episode that should have been fun. The Doctor impersonates various crew members to save the ship from the Kazon, which is a concept brimming with comedic potential. But the execution falters. The humor is forced, and the tension never feels real. The Kazon are one-dimensional antagonists, and the Doctor's impersonations, while occasionally amusing, come off as gimmicky rather than genuinely clever. On first viewing, you might chuckle, but on a rewatch, the episode feels like padding, an excuse to stretch the Doctor's holographic powers without offering meaningful character development or plot advancement. 4. Year of Hell, Part IS4E8. Now, hold on. I'm fully aware of how beloved the Year of Hell 2-parter is. But hear me out. Part I, while ambitious, is bloated. The episode sets up an intense, high-stakes scenario where Voyager is hunted and battered over an extended period. The concept is excellent, exploring the toll of relentless adversity on a crew and their ship. But the pacing in Part I drags, with repetitive sequences of attacks and repairs that feel more like a checklist than a story. It's only when you get to Part 2 that the payoff hits. For casual rewatching, I often skip Part I and dive straight into the resolution, because the tension and isolation isn't enough to carry the episode. 5. The Omega Directive S4E21. This one is a classic case of style over substance. The Omega Directive introduces a mysterious and powerful phenomenon that the crew must contain, which sounds thrilling. The problem is the episode spends far too much time wandering through convoluted moral dilemmas, while the Omega particle's significance is never fully realized on screen. Janeway's ethical quandaries dominate the narrative, but without a strong visual or emotional anchor, the episode feels more like a lecture than a story. Rewatching it, the suspense doesn't translate, leaving an otherwise flashy episode feeling flat and overly formal. Why I skip these episodes. Voyager's strength lies in its character interactions and the ways it explores moral, philosophical, and emotional questions in space. But these episodes, despite being part of an otherwise strong season, often prioritize gimmicks, pacing issues, or convoluted exposition over storytelling. When I'm rewatching, I crave episodes where the stakes feel tangible, the crew's personalities shine, and the sci-fi concepts are engaging rather than obfuscating. These 5 episodes, while not bad per se, rarely give me that sense of excitement or connection on repeat viewings. Honorable mentions. Before we wrap up, a quick nod to a few others I sometimes skip. The Raven S4E6, which is heavy on backstory for 7 but feels slow, and Demon S4E24, which, while visually interesting, is a rather forgettable alien of the weak story. They're not terrible, but they fall short compared to Voyager's stronger character-driven arcs like Day of Honor or Scorpion, Part I. Rewatching Star Trek, Voyager is often a joy, but it's also an exercise in selective memory. Not every episode ages gracefully. Season 4, despite its high points, has its share of uneven entries, and these 5 episodes are the ones I've learned to skip without guilt. They might matter in the larger arc, but they're not worth revisiting for pure enjoyment. If you want, I can also create a version with snarky one-liners for each episode, giving